Welcome to the review from my nightmares, ladies and gentlemen. Yep, this is going to be my first random review posted on Tuesday because I just could not get anything done on Monday. This is my 6th attempt to record this review. You cannot imagine how many things have gone wrong. I've had interruptions, phone calls in the middle of recording. The last attempt, the battery in my shotgun mic died right in the middle. I'm not too happy. But the show must go on. I am no quitter. This will happen. Late or not, I will still get this toy reviewed. Because I'm still in the mood to talk about a really weird alt mode. And it doesn't get a whole lot weirder than Cybertron Menasor. And everyone's so hyped up about Menasors that combine lately. So I'm going to show you the Menasor that combines that everyone forgets about. As you can see, he is unique. He is a special little snowflake, as a friend of mine would say. He is something of an excavation tool, a tunnel digger, if you will. And it's just a very strange alt mode, to be sure. Now, we will be perfectly fair here. This is his robot mode, just kind of laying down on its belly with his arms out and his legs hiked up. But, you know what? There's a uniqueness to it that I appreciate. You know, it's strange, it's different, it's unique. It's Menasor, or Moldive in Japan, which technically makes this much more sense than Menasor, to be frank. It is cast in a dark blue-green plastic, something of a dark teal, as well as some tan and black plastic that's more prevalent toward the back. And the paint for all three of those colors is spread out to mix the colors up a little bit all throughout. And there's a few other touches here and there. We have some baby blue paint, just detailing a few little bits and bobs here and there, and a few touches of red just to add a splash of bright color into the mix. Because he is a rather dull little toy, isn't he? I mean, not form-wise, because obviously he's got a ton going on. But just in colors, it's a little drab. So I do really appreciate those bright little splotches here and there. Now, if you see this toy and you think, wow, he looks a little bit thinner in profile than I originally remember him, it's because the transformation instructions he came with were completely wrong. It actually completely neglected this connection point, linking what will be the arm to what will be the foot, which is really bad because this connection is the only thing making this vehicle mode solid. Everything else is just kind of loosely hinged together, and otherwise it gets very floppy and it doesn't really look all that good. But connected properly, it forms a pretty concise, pretty tightly knit vehicle mode, a very unique design. You can see two drills off the front, one more traditional, large size, translucent blue plastic, and another one here that's more like power drill shaped than anything, with a big scoop in the front, presumably for casting away rocks that he's tunneling through. So that I kind of go with, and he's got heavy treads in the front as well as in the back. I will say I kind of wish the connection point was painted in this dark teal, just to kind of bridge this a little bit better, you know, not make the connection point so obvious, but it's not a bad job. Like, I will take it for what it is. So, as I've said, it's pretty obvious what becomes his arms and his legs and everything in robot mode, so it's pretty alien in that design, but there's a little bit of freedom to alien designs like that, so we're going to appreciate it for what it is. I think it's pretty cool at what it does. Now, for gimmicks, this guy is absolutely loaded. There's not a whole lot to show you right now. It's better to show in robot mode. However, I will show you that translucent blue drill does spin when rolled across the ground. There's gearing for that. And that's always a nice little touch for any kind of drill tank of any sort. And especially good on this one because he's got, like, I don't know, caster, wheel. He's got wheels everywhere just to make sure that rolling actually works. So that's the vehicle mode, and we'll set that aside because we also have to talk about his Minicon partner. Yeah, it's a Cybertron toy with a Minicon partner. That was kind of the Giant Planets thing. This is heavy load, and he is kind of a mix of a heavy snowplow and dump truck. It is a very Plow King style vehicle. And it's not a whole lot of interesting things going on here. It's a beefy little snowplow in minicon form. No real paint to talk about except this pale gold that's on the front of the scoop, and not a whole lot of really detailed molding, just enough to get the idea across. I do like that this plow can lift up and down, and they did remember to mold in some grill marks just so it has a complete truck look. So, as minicons go, not too interesting, but not too bad either. We'll bring this guy back in because there is a function to show you here, but we do have to disconnect a few parts and put him in that mistransformed mode that I so kind of loathe, really. So we'll get these widened out a little bit to give us space, and this is what I'm talking about. Can you see how all this is just kind of loose back here, but it doesn't have that connection point? C'est la vie. Get him back down. I will say he is kind of finicky to get into vehicle mode too, just because he's got so many ratcheted joints, and getting them all lined up and just ratcheted just correctly to actually fit does get a little bit frustrating sometimes, because it's kind of hard to remember which ratchet is which and which line up. But with those widened out, we can open up the front blade, and then here, widen a little bit because I need some space. And yeah, the continuation of things breaking on me on camera. Yeah. You're not going to be able to see what I'm doing because I need to be able to see this, and I can't hold the toy up with both hands while I do it. I'm pegging these very large tabs into the inside edge of Menasor's blade, because them all combined together, and come on, this is really way more finicky and annoying and frustrating than it should be. Can't even. Yeah, there we go. That's it for the most part. The minicon does kind of have an Armada Demolisher thing where it joins into the front and kind of beefs him out a little bit more. Now the scoop has a flat front on the edge, which is less effective for clearing rock away, but whatever. It's just a little there as an option, just in case you like how it looks, and to give him a little bit of minicon integration. It's not a bad idea. I do wish the paint was a little bit more consistent. See if it had some of that teal in the bed and this tan instead of the gold. I think it would have hidden a lot better, and it would have matched much nicer. But for what it is, it's not a bad little trick to work in. Other than you basically have to have him half transformed and kind of loose in order to actually make that connection happen. So let's get him into actual robot mode so you can see what all is really going on here. We've already got the arms halfway done, so we'll just finish those off by stretching them out all the way. The scoop will split open to create the back wings. We'll extend the legs down, and from here I will stop, because this is where designers momentarily stopped and said, hey, that kind of looks like something. So they slapped it on the box as a triple changer and said that this was work mode, as in we put no work into creating this mode. They literally stopped halfway through transforming, thought it looked like something, and then tried to market it as a third mode to make what is otherwise a very, very strange vehicle with a very simple transformation look a little bit more fulfilling as a toy. Nah. BS. This thing is just a simplified transformer. That's not a mode. I hate half transform modes being marketed as full modes, because they always look terrible. There's really no point to them. Do it if you want, but frankly, it's just not really worth it. And there we have the real robot mode for Menasor. You see, he is an ultra-class toy. He is very tall, he is very bulky, very beefy in the right spots. Very big armed, very big O in that way. So, let's see if we'll take a close look at the head, because that's always the first thing we do. It's a very unique head design, and one I'm actually really big fan of. I like that really tall crest on the top of his head, and I'll move that down, actually, so you can actually see the face a little bit better. I like the mean angular look to the face. I like the tall head crest. He's got kind of a knight's armor and helmet look to him that's actually really good. And I like how much light piping is in his head. His eyes manage to light blue no matter where the light is. That's always good, because I hate translucents that just make the head look dark and dull. Now, in this mode, you can see most of the detailing is survived from the vehicle mode. There's not a whole lot extra to talk about. There's a few details, though, that I do like, and I can still point out. I really like this kind of worn-out silver look that they added to the front of the drill sections that's over here as well, just to give it a worn look like years and years of rock tunneling has taken the paint off. That's a really cool and really thoughtful piece of paintwork. It gives them a little bit more character and definition. I like that. I also kind of like the front section of him. He's got a lot going on here with a lot of extra black and silver paint and a few more hits of gold and red. There's a Decepticon emblem painted on what is actually a translucent section of his chest, which is a little bit inaccurate. I don't recall him having that in the show, because he was very briefly aligned with the Decepticons. I'm actually pretty sure he spent more time with the Autobots in series. It's been a long time. I could be wrong on that. But there is a lot of translucent elements in here. This is actually all like one big translucent piece. I will say, something I do like about the toy, I like how a lot of these accent parts, especially the gold, are actually molded parts that have been added in. It is not painted. It gives it a much better, more solid look, and a lot more layered, too. It looks like it fits in, and it's actual tech detail showing through. And I will point out, yes, he does have gold plastic running through a lot of his parts. It is not swirly, and I've never heard of him having GPS issues, so I'm not at all worried about this plastic degrading or getting really bad on me over time. Now, in this mode, I did promise some gimmickry, didn't I? So we'll go into gimmickry before we really get to articulation. And we'll start with his Minicon gimmick. We'll attach him to the front, and then push forward to unleash the claws and extend out the drill, which actually has a nice action feature I like, in that the drill itself does spin as it comes out. It's kind of an unnecessary addition to the gimmick, but it's a very appreciated one. It gives him a little bit more, I don't know, a little bit more action-oriented features. That's nice. Like that. The drill on the other side still works, too. There's a gear on top that lets you do it manually with your thumb. So both drills can spin in this mode, which is a nice touch. Also, he does have a Cyber Key port, so obviously we have to talk the Cyber Key. In this case, it is the giant planet, Gigantian, whatever one you want to call it. I still prefer the Japanese Gigalonia, because that sounds like an actual place. I love the gear detail in this one. This is one of my favorite key designs, and I'm actually surprised they didn't use it more often. You know, repaint some of the other, like Mudflap and Landmine as other giant planet denizens, just to use this key a little bit more. As it is, there's only 3, and only 2 of them are silver. Kind of sad. But we plug it in, and we're going to get a light and sound effects, since Ultra Class toys had lights and sounds a lot back then. So we'll plug in, and brace yourselves. I think my hard drive on my last computer made that noise. So it's a pretty dim light shining through the translucent blue. It's your typical cheapo red LED just kind of blinking. And the sound effect is vaguely drill-ish, but it's not really a coherent sound. So that's a bit of a letdown, I will admit. Like, as far as sound effects go, I've heard much better. And frankly, his physical gimmicks are way better than that. It's actually kind of a shame. Of all the Cyber Key gimmicks, the ones that just activate sound effects like that always tend to be the most disappointing. But luckily, he's got more gimmick on top of that, in which case we have to transform his Minicon in order to get a little bit more. See? Come on, where's your head? There's your head. We'll flip that out. Flip his body down, arms go down, head goes up. And there we have our tiny little Minicon friend, Heavy Load, in his full robot mode. And here, I'll get this out of the way so my camera can actually focus on this tiny little guy, because he is tiny. He does have some extra painted details here, a little bit of silver on the legs, and a gold painted head with red face. He's not a bad design. He's very hefty, very wide-shouldered. The tiny head makes him look like he's much bigger and beefier than he is. So it all works out. And aside from like the truck bed being very thin to actually be arms. Articulation wise, real quick, ball jointed shoulders, ball jointed elbows, and your old fashioned T-joint style articulation here in the hips. It's not a whole lot going on. He's pretty much average all around for a Minicon, but that's not really the full purpose of the figure, because the Giant Planet guys, because they were so big, relied on Minicons for small tasks, which means they all have a little bit more integration than typical. We can insert Heavy Load in there, and he can kind of ride inside. Very Brain Master-esque. Now, as I said, the front is translucent, and it's very hard to see. I will try to get some illumination in there. Thank you, cheapo desk lamp from Walmart. You can see the Minicon inside. If this was a white translucent or just like completely clear, it'd come through a little bit better. Or if the Decepticon symbol wasn't blocking him, you'd be able to see it much better. But as it is, it's something that's really only best seen in person, which is a kind of a letdown, but what are you gonna do? So that's pretty much all the gimmickry he has. He's absolutely loaded as far as that goes. Articulation wise, the head does rotate. It's very tight, but it does work. Listen to the ratchets. Listen to them. Listen to them. Listen to them all. He is very ratchet. Universal shoulder movement. Bicep, more ratchets. Elbow, more ratchets. Bicep rotation below the elbow, more ratchets. He's got a ton of spring-loaded jointage here. There's some more. Have some more. Have some more. It all rotate. It all has ratchet joints, except for the thigh swivel. Very quiet thigh swivel. But everything else. Okay, I'm being silly now. So yeah, he has a ton of ratchet joints. He stands extremely solidly. He has an ankle tilt, which means he has forward and back ankle tilt, which are also ratcheted, which means because his feet are absolutely huge, he does have great amount of balance despite those gigantic arms. So he can get into some pretty wild poses and holds very solidly. That is one of the biggest strengths of this toy. He is incredibly solid, which is appropriate for a Giant Planet character. So it's pretty simple as far as transformation goes, and you really have to be a fan of that quirky little robot vehicle mode. But overall, I think this is a very underrated toy. There's a lot of things to like, gimmicks that are pretty fulfilling and don't really get in the way of anything. The Minicon integration is really good. And I really like the look in both modes. He stands extremely unique amongst the pack of G1 homages and trilogy characters. It's not a character I ever expect to see again, but for what it is, I'm really happy with it. And just incidentally, I will say I kind of am in the crowd here that says, well, between this arm and this claw arm and his heavy like big arm thing, why did the club never repaint him into like some kind of Omega Supreme? Or, you know what, the club does nothing but obscure stuff right now. Do Omega Supreme. At least make Vangelis happy, I know that.